quite quite extensive and much more than I expected. So I want to say thank you very much. And please, I hope everybody enjoys because I know.
He doesn't like me to say this. This is the miracle on Mulberry Street.
Oh, yes.
You know, raise your hand if you're Italian American. Oh my God. You know, we're so proud of our heritage. You know, all of us grew up in this country with such a longing to know of our roots. At least I did. You know, my grandfather would always say to me, he would sit, you know, in the little, the little lawn chair, you know, kind of the woven kind, you know, the aluminum thing. Yeah. And he would sit there, and I would go out after Sunday dinner, after my mother would be frying the meatballs all morning. And you go to church, and you're afraid you smell like garlic and olive oil. But all the other kids did too, so that's okay. But you know, he would come over, and we would be there, and I would say, Grandpa, you know, what was it like in Italy? And he would go like this. I would say, Grandpa, what was it? I mean, I kind of felt foolish asking him in a way, but I really wanted to know. And he would go, hey. So I didn't understand what it was. Did he not want to talk about it because his heart was broken? Because he left his family back there? Or was it just an old story from a long time ago and you didn't think it was worth talking about? But I wanted to know, especially since I have red hair. You know, it's really difficult being a redheaded Italian American because my whole life everybody's going, you're not Italian. You're not. Now listen, I was born in Newark. I was raised in Bloomfield. That's the pasta belt of New Jersey, you know? You know? But still, everybody gave me a hard time. You're not Italian. You're not Italian. You know, and I wanted to know about my roots. And my grandpa would always tell me, hey, I'm from Avellino. Okay, Avellino. I'll try to write it down. You know, and then next time I would ask him where you're from, he would say, Aquilonia. So I thought this was the same place. And then finally I had a chance to go visit my relatives a few years ago. And I saw that it was Aquilonia in Avellino Province. And of course it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and I have cousins and they made me super sad and it's lovely. But I know you look at me and you say, she's got the folklore costume on. What kind of people get involved in this sort of thing? Well, we here are just a few of us from the Coro D'Italia. And the Coro D'Italia is a big secret. People just don't know what we are. And I'm so pleased to be here today to tell you a little bit about our history, which is extensive. 80 years, almost 80 years of continuous performance for the Coro D'Italia. A singing and dancing ensemble, and we also wear folklore costumes. But you know, I don't want to talk, I want to sing and I want to dance. So we brought some of our musicians here, and our first is Vincent Ricciardelli, and he's our tenor soloist, and he'll be singing for you.
L'aurora di bianco vestita, l'uscio di schiudo al gran sol, di già con le rose sue dita, carezza di fuori lo stor, che mossa d'un fremito arcano, l'intorno il creato già par, e tu non ti desti ed vano, io sto qui dolenti a cantar. Metti anche tu la vesti bianca e scudi l'uscio la tua cantare, Marsei, la luce manca, ove tu sei, nasce l'amor.
Is that the greatest culture in the world? No, I always say none greater than the Italian culture and heritage. Well, I wanted to tell you about the Coro D'Italia, how I got involved in it myself. Obviously, I'm from the rock and roll generation. My parents listened to Sinatra. Sinatra was bigger than the Pope in my house. You know, and I like Sinatra too, and it was, and he was wonderful. But as I said, I didn't know really about my heritage. About 15 years ago, I had occasion to go to the old McBurney YMCA on 23rd Street. And I came across a thing that said Italian Folklore Society. And I'm thinking, Italian Folklore Society? What's Italian folklore? Now, I know about my Italian heritage a little bit, but I'm thinking, Italian folklore? Is that Topo Gigio? You know, what could it be? So I called on the phone and I said to I get this lady on the phone and I said, gee, you know, what is it? She goes, oh, we're a singing and dancing ensemble. I said, oh yeah? She says, yeah, we do all the tarantellas and the quadrillas and we dress in the costume, we sing all the old songs. I says, yeah. I said, that sounds wonderful. She goes, yeah. I said, yeah, can I come over and see it? She goes, no, you don't want to come. We're a bunch of old people. I said, what do you mean you're a bunch of old people? And she was the director of membership. So I said, well, let me see. Let me go. So I came and I saw one of their rehearsals, and then they did a performance. And when they came out in their costumes, now, Coro D'Italia started in 1932. Now, this is what, 1992, something like that. And it was largely an elderly group of people by this time. And they were wonderful. They sang these songs, they danced a number of dances, and they wore the costumes, and I just fell in love with it. And little by little, I have a background in the theater myself, I helped them, and then about 10 years ago, they wanted to throw in the tambourine. You know, so I said, no, there's no way that this legacy should stop. So we brought the Coro D'Italia to New Jersey. So, as it turns out, our group is the first group in America dedicated solely to Italian singing, dancing, and costuming. And we are the only group in the tri-state area anymore that keeps this going. So I've been dedicated to doing this for the last 12 years of my life. And we have a children's component. And, you know, now I have to say, we are no longer 50 strong, you know, but every group, as I say, changes over time. And so we have to, in order to keep going. And as it used to be totally a voluntary group. But that was back in the days when only one person worked and women were home and people had more leisure time. So nowadays we have a company of talented amateurs and professionals, and all together, and that's how we work our ensemble now. So they were always telling me, the book, it's in the book. And I was saying, well, what book? And they would never take the book out. And they said, no, you can't touch the book. I said, well, you know, I want to have a costume made. Because what they did was they would look at this book. This book was written in 1936. It's in Italian. It's Emma Calderini's book on Italian folk costume. It's gorgeous. You take a look at it later. But like I said, they wouldn't even let me touch it. But now it's mine, so I can do what I want. But what they would do is they would look through the book, and it has different folk costumes from all different paese, because every hill town had their own costume. Of course, they even might have their own dialect, their own dances, and so each person would pick what costume they would want made up. Now, mind you, this was back in the 30s and the 40s when people knew how to sew. Nowadays, you know, they say, oh, my Aunt Josephine made me this or something like that. Nowadays, you know, we have to have costumes made. But for instance, so you know, it's very dear because you look through this book and you see these little pieces of paper and on other people's names, so they know that this was the costume that they already had in the troupe, because so that they wouldn't have the costume made again. This is a woman that I knew fairly well. Actually, this is the woman who told me, you don't want to join, do you? We're a bunch of old people. This is actually her. Her name is Susan Bodard. That was her married name. And she had this costume made. So you can see it's quite similar. The headpieces are big, usually, and really not made to dance in. But so she did have the headpiece, but she didn't wear it very much. But so that's what we did is that we went back and we looked at here. So I don't know where you're from, but you could find your town or at least your province, and have a costume made. About 8 years ago, at St. Lucy's Church in Newark, which is the old town. It's the only edifice standing of the old neighborhood. Newark, New Jersey had the fifth largest Italian Little Italy in the country, but because of urban renewal, in 280, it was destroyed. People had to move, and it was still a sore spot in many people's lives in that area. Well, anyway, the church is still standing, and I used to go to this church, and I met this little lady there. Well, she didn't have this costume on, but she was one of those little ladies about this big. You know, you've seen them in Italy. You know, they have, you know, like Pat Cooper used to say, the front and the back, the gold tooth, and the, you know. And she had, she was always in black, and she looked like this. You know, and she says, Mario, you don't believe it. Let me see. Ha ha ha, look at this. Ha. She shows me this picture of herself, taken in the late 30s, in the folklore costume for Capocella, which is also in Avellino Province, which is near my grandfather's town. So I said, so I wasn't laughing, you know. I said, oh my gosh. You know, she goes, I don't know. Naturally, she was a seamstress. She says, you like that? Why don't you try to make it for you? So we got into the car one day, and we went up to, I don't know, Calico Corners or something, and she picked up all the material, and she had this fitted to me. And this is my costume that I actually wore out. I wore it so much. But this is the costume that she has. Did someone look at the picture?
Beautiful.
So you can see it's pretty much the same thing. Okay? So it's all handmade, and it's and one of the things. Could you hold this? One of the things that's very indicative of the folklore costumes is that they had these sleeves that they would wear. So the sleeves were worn over this, you know, and it would keep their sleeves clean, and it was prettier. Sometimes they're tied with ribbon, and I have costumes like that, you know, in our display. But anyway, so this is the costume she made for me, and of course she made me la tobolia, which is the headpiece, which can range from something as simple as this one, which is just folded piece of fabric like this, and you wear it on your head. To being very large and elaborate, almost wimples, you know. But again, it's very hard to. We dance too, to do the tarantella and something like this, because you remember the flying nun. Yes, it's really going to take off. But we have them in our and of course they all had aprons too. And so people ask me, you know, like, what is the What is the Italian costume? The Italian costume, as you can see from the book, it goes many centuries, many generations. There's no one. It's like people say to me, well, what's the Italian dance? Or Allison is here. Allison is a very good tarantella dancer, and Allison Scola, and she studies with and dances with Alessandra Belloni, who is our America's expert on Southern Italian dance and music and drumming. I also study with her. But people want to say, what is the tarantella? How do you do the tarantella? Well, there's no one way to do it. You know, there's many different ways of doing it and many different types of music. It's the same thing with the costumes. You could get a costume that's very much a peasant costume. Look in here later. There's a man's costume in here that's made out of hay. I'm not kidding. And then there's another one with feathers and the headdress, you know. So, and some of them have a more Renaissance look to them, you know. But when we think of folkloric costumes, we usually think of before 1930. I'd like to do another song for you. Okay. Vanessa Bellegini is going to do Torrent Sorrento for you. Now, you have to understand about Coro D'Italia. We sing songs from all over Italy and dances from all over Italy. We don't just do Neapolitan songs. You know, but we love the Neapolitan songs. 3 years ago we did at all Neapolitan show. Let me tell you, crying tears of joy. Oh, but anyway, for the sermon.
Guardi il mare come bello, sfiorando sentimento, come il tuo sguardo accendo, che mi destra fa sognare. Senti come ieri sale dai giardini odor d'arancia, profumo uguale per chi coltiva d'amore e tutti giocando a Dio con un calido stupore. Questo tema dell'amore è la forza di lasciare, ma non mi fuggire, non darmi più tormento, torna sorrento, fammi
Some of our dancers from about 1948. And this man in the middle, you know, anytime we talk about an organization like this, it has cycles in it. And how did it get started? Who wants to know how it got started? This is how it got started. Now, 1932. You would pick 1932, we would have had a pretty good feeling about our culture in this country. You know, the first wave of immigrants were still young people, the second generation. But it came to pass that Dr. Leonard Covello was teaching a class in Italian. And there was going to be this was up at Columbia University, there was going to be a big folk, festival. And so he got up in front of the group and he said, this class, he said, you know, there's going to be Polish people dancing, there's going to be Spanish people dancing, there's going to be Swedish people dancing, but there was nobody to do the Italian dance. And he said, isn't that a shame? What a shame that we should have, you know, there should be so many of us and nobody to keep the heritage. Well, after class, 18-year-old freshman went up to him and said to him, well, gee, that is a shame. What should we do? And he said, well, I don't know. Why don't you do something? So she did. So she got together with him. I'm going to show you her picture. Her name is Farah. As you can see, it's quite a glamorous shot of her from the 1930s. And Elba began, got a group of people together, and there was one woman who had an aunt or somebody or who knew a few steps, and they put together the first dance of the Coro D'Italia, which they did, of course, to the tarantella Napolitan. Go ahead, do the rest. Don't you love Italian Americans? It's in the blood. It's just in the blood, that's all. Okay, so to that, and they put the steps together and they made the first dance, which they called the old tarantella Napolitan of New York City. And that dance, what we do today, we do that very version today. And what happened with Elba was that she got more and more into it, and then other people did too. And at the time, there was a wonderful thing that was, I mean, culture's changed so much, you know? I mean, it's constantly morphing and becoming other things. But can you imagine, there was so much interest in this sort of thing at that time that the different YMCAs were sponsoring cultural classes and dance classes. So there was one in Hoboken, and there was one in Queens, and all the different boroughs. And the Coro D'Italia was here in Manhattan. Now, she started to do it here. So, and it got going, and it flourished, and other places too. Then she moved to Philadelphia. Well, when she moved to Philadelphia, she started a group down there, and she started the Italian Folk Art Federation of America, which is still in existence today. And you won't believe it, because there are singing and dancing groups wherever Italians went. So now you can go down to Texas, and you can see them down here doing a tarantella. And you could go up to Rockford, Illinois, and Milwaukee, and then all these places. Now I didn't think Italians went any farther than Pennsylvania, but apparently they do. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that she wrote a book in 1948, Italian folk art, music, dance, and customs. And I don't have it with me, but you can readily get it, and it has a lot of the dances that we do. So it's very fascinating, because we could be doing a dance, and they could be doing the same one out in the Midwest somewhere. And this is how the culture spread that way. And it was, somebody had an idea, they say, okay, let's start an Italian folk group. Whoa, I don't know where these steps. Well, that's okay, because we have the book right here. You know, it even comes with a CD. Nowadays. So, and as I said, so now she wanted to do that. So, I think it's time for a dance. What do you think?
Yes.
That's all right. We do some pizzica, and we do quadrilla, which is the Italian square dance, and what are we doing together? Mazurka? Mazurka. We're doing a mazurka. Roberto Grenwald. I call him Roberto. And Celeste Verrecchio, our dance mistress. Person who's very close to us in the Pasta Belt of New Jersey is Connie Francis. Now, Connie Francis is before my time, you know, so she's another person I was going, oh, Madonna mia, I have to hear about Connie Francis one more time, because where I live, you either live next to her, you know, or your cousin went to high school with her, or something like that, you know. And so I didn't really have an appreciation for her, for her music, but did you know that she's the largest selling female rock performer ever? And yeah, that's true. And so we do some Connie Francis, and we do a lot of the songs that we grew up with that maybe you hear in background music. You know, when you go eat Italian food. That's why people come to our concerts, they go home hungry. And we have Vanessa here, and she's going to sing Al Di La for us, one of my favorites. So you like that, right?
Al di là del sono più ambizioso, ci sei tu. Al di là delle cose più belle, al di là delle stelle, ci sei tu. Al di là ci sei tu. Per me, soltanto per me, al di là, means you are far above me, very far. Every star will light the way above me to where you are. Just to measure your worth, I move heaven and earth to be near you. You're my life, you're my love, you're my all in love. La 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 la, la la la, la 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 la.
Bravo! Well, we're coming to the end, and we have another song for you. And I think something else I need that I wanted to tell you. It's what could be better than being Italian and singing and dancing? You know, if any of you here, like I say, we have a company of professionals and talented others. I'm going to say amateur, did I? And talented other people who perform with us. So if you think you like it, you know, let me know. And if you sing really well, you stand in the front. If not, I'll give you a big tambourine. You stand in the back. No. But it's very much of a community of people who just love their heritage and enjoy it. And just if you're Italian American, be proud like we are. If you're something else, also be proud. And thank you so much. As I say, this is the miracle on Mulberry Street, and I'm so happy to be here.
Let's give a big round of applause for MARYLOU, ROMANO. And let's bring the company up here also and give a round of applause as well. All of you.
Daniela Tichetti on violin. Mistress Celeste Orecchio. Roberto Benwell, grandson. This is the Chardelli tenor. Yes. And Vanessa Bellandini.
I want to say thank you very very much, to all of them what they've done. You know what the purpose of the Italian, and this is perfect because this is an Italian American museum. It is not an Italian museum. It's an Italian American museum. And what they've done with Coro D'Italia is they've taken all the different traditions from all over Italy and they've melded them together and presented them. And also the way the Italians melded them into the United States. I learned something tonight that I didn't know, and I do know the man Leonard Cavallo. He's the first principal of Benjamin Franklin High School up in East Harlem. And he did a whole lot of things. He wrote his PhD at NYU on the Italian American school child back in the 1830s. So he was one of the pioneers, real big pioneers in the development of Italian and Italian American culture. And now I learned tonight that he was involved with this as well. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. What we're doing is we're doing urban archaeology here. We're rediscovering our past. So I want to say thank you all for coming. If you like what you heard, I whispered in your ear and I said on March 11th, we're going to be doing something in Garfield, New Jersey at the Venetian. And maybe we can get them all to come and do a performance for us there. And you'll all be invited. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the evening. And if you like what you heard, invite them to come to wherever you are as well. Thank you.
We have Vincent again, and he's going to sing for you an aria. Which one?
Nessun dorma.
All'alba